Hello everyone. So let's discuss one of the important question. What is the difference between admin and architect in Splunk? So why should I take architect training? To be frank, so in order to complete a project from the scratch to the end, so we need both architect and admin. So in order to complete any projects, so there are several stages. So first stage is a requirement gathering. So every project starts with a requirement gathering. You should know how to collect requirements from your client. That is when the project starts. You get to know how much data is coming, what are the different data sources, what is the nature of data, retention period, n number of things. So there are 25 standard questions you need to ask. More than that, you can ask whatever you want, but there are minimum 25 questions you need to ask to your clients. So that is the first important topic you need to know as a Splunk architect. Once you gather the requirements, you should know how to document them, right? And sometimes you won't get all the requirements. So you need to take some assumptions in your requirement. So what are the assumptions you are going to take? How are you going to convey the assumptions to your clients? How do you verify that whatever the assumption you are taken is valid? So these are all the things comes under requirement gathering. Now, once you complete the requirement gathering, what is the next step? Second step is capacity planning, right? So you got your requirements from your client. Now, the next step is you need to plan for the CPU, memory, disk, the resources, right? How much CPU is needed? How many instances you need? Like either you are going to use a single instance with the biggest CPU core, or you are going to use a multiple instances, or you are going to go for a distributed environment. That comes under capacity planning. So this is the steps 2. So once you know the resources, once you plan the resources, the next step is architecture planning. So this is where you decide the architecture, right? So now you have resources. Now you need to know how to deploy those resources, where to deploy those resources. So single site, multi-site, disaster recovery, deployment pipeline, indexer cluster, searched cluster, you are going to decide all of them. So this architecture planning will support business continuity. So that is where as an architect, you decide a lot of strategies, you decide a lot of procedure, then everything boils down to the final architecture diagram, where you will have complete architecture diagram prepared with each and every connection, everything written into it. So these 3 stages are the key areas of Splunk Architect. As an architect, you should know how to collect the requirements, how to do the capacity planning, how to do the architecture planning. So once you complete all these 3, right, then now it is the steps for admin, right? As an architect, you should also need to know how to deploy this environment from the scratch, right? So the step 4 is set up the infrastructure. So based on the architecture diagram you got, you are going to set up the infrastructure. So in the step 4, setting up the infrastructure, you are going to create servers. Like you should know how to create the servers in AWS, right? And when you are creating the server, what are all the best practices you are going to use? Like on the OS level, which OS you are going to take? Windows, Linux, or in Linux, which distribution you are going to take it. In OS level, what are all the hardening things you are going to do? Like disabling THP, limit. So why should you do that? See, in your lab environment, you can do it. But when it comes to your client environment, it takes permissions. Like you need to inform your client team that you are going to do all these things and all, right? So that is what OS hardening. You should know how to do the OS hardening. If you don't do it, around 30% of the performance degradation will be there in the Splunk. So that is the reason, as an architect, you should know how to deploy the basic Splunk components. Even as an admin, you should know, but as an architect, this is a mandatory skill, because if client is asking, you are responsible to provide the information. And then in the step 4 itself, you should know how to deploy standalone environment, distributed non-cluster, distributed cluster single site, distributed cluster multi-site. So different environments are there. You should know how to deploy them. So step 4 will teach you that one in this program. And step 5. So now on the step 4, you have deployed all the environments, right? You should know how to maintain it, right? For example, how to configure SAML, how to configure Okta, LDAP, MFA, and how do you upgrade, how do you migrate, how do you maintain if something goes wrong. So how do you deploy apps? All those things will be coming under this step 5. That is where you do deploy apps and do the cluster maintenance, right? So now your cluster is ready, your environment is ready, you know how to maintain it. Now what is the next step? This is where actual data onboarding starts. So the data onboarding means you are going to bring your customer data into the Splunk environment, what you are built, right? So you are going to onboard Windows data, Linux data, syslog, because data can be from different data sources. So you should know how to onboard them individually. each data source requires a different way of onboarding the data, right? So in our curriculum, we have Windows, Linux, Syslog, MySQL, MS SQL, and we have ServiceNow, AWS. So all kinds of data sources. We have handpicked data sources for you. Those data sources are live. They are not sample data. So they are live. So you are going to onboard all the data sources into your environment, the environment what you have created. So at the end of this step 6, right, the data onboarding, you will know each and every method of onboarding the data into Splunk. So now this is done. Data started coming, right? So what is the next step? Obviously, troubleshooting. So as and when you onboard the data, right, definitely you'll have a lot of issues. Even if I give you step-by-step procedure, so you will face a lot of issues. How are you going to troubleshoot? Be it a data onboarding, data parsing, an installation issue, upgrade issue, lot of issues will be there. See, there are billions of issues, right? I can't teach you everything, but what can we do it? So we can help you to narrow down to the problems. So we can help you to navigate to the problem. So if you find, right? So if you find the problem correctly, then 90% of the solution is already there. So you should know how to find the issue, how to narrow down to the issue. We will help you to check the internal logs. We will help you to check the documents and everything. And there are a lot of communities where Splunk admins or Splunk architects are actively supporting each other. We will also show you where you can go and ask your questions and get answered. Mostly you will only understand after going through all the 6 phases, right? 7th phase is troubleshooting. So after you know how to troubleshoot the issues, right, then the end-to-end project, you can call it as like, yeah, it is done. But it is not going to stop right there, right? So the premium apps, so that is where the actual value gets delivered to the clients, right? So in this training, we don't teach you the premium apps, but what we teach you is the essentials of the premium apps, because premium apps trainings is conducted by Splunk company itself. There are a lot of workshops, so you can attend it for free. Even with their lab environment, you can get it. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel again. So we will guide you to the workshops conducted by Splunk company itself, where you can go and attend. But here we teach you the essentials, like what is, in enterprise security, right? What is notable events? What are correlation search? What are use cases? People lack basic explanation, because of which they are not able to understand. Trust me, it is very easiest concept. Once you understand the basics, it will be clear. So we teach you all premium apps. Like when I say all, it covers Splunk Observability, SOAR, and Enterprise Security, ITSM. So all these 4 apps, essentials, will teach you. So with this knowledge, you can go and attend the workshop conducted by Splunk, and then you can get the knowledge. So this is the end-to-end curriculum. In this one, the lab environment, whatever I've been saying, you will be provided with the lab environment. It's a dedicated lab environment for each one of you. Even the data sources are dedicated, meaning if it is you, only you will have access to that lab environment. It is completely controlled and owned by you. So it's a dedicated. You are not going to deploy it on your laptop or in your AWS environment. You are going to deploy everything on our AWS environment. So we will give you servers. It will be similar to like how your clients will give you, right? So they will give you, this is the server name, this is the IP address and everything. We will give you the same way. You will deploy everything over there. So everything is, we are trying best to provide you the real-time experience where you work similar to the real-time projects. So that is what the end-to-end project implementation is all about. And along with this one, there are like live session recordings as well. You can watch the recordings. If you miss any sessions, you can watch the recordings, and the documents and everything will be available in the portal. So the portal link is given below. You can click and you can check out the content. So if you have any other question, you can reach out to me on my individual WhatsApp, or you can put it on the group. We have a WhatsApp group. That link is also there in the description. You can click and you can post all your queries.